I'm not gonna watch the new hero trailer. I've already watched it, but like, you've probably already seen it. And you've probably already heard people react to it, talk about it. But I want to come from more of a design standpoint, and I want to look at like what I think this character could be, what I would like to see from the character. I did this with Aqua, like, well, it's Wu Young now, but like it was Aqua, the code name. I did that a while ago, and so it's sort of a similar thing. What I want the character to be, but in the sense of I'm gonna more of try predict what's gonna happen. But first off, let's talk about the trailer, how cool the character looks. Let's talk about the stuff that we almost know. Pretty sure the character's a DPS character. I mean, it's been leaked before, and it's been essentially hinted at again. And like, look at the character. Does not probably fit a tank, and that's not going to be a support. So, very cool color scheme is something I want to point out. One of the first things I noticed was I really love how red, gold, and black look. Who doesn't? It's really cool colors to have. And she has a big fucking sword, and everyone loves a big sword. It's just cool. It's just cool. And they tie in to a old Overwatch 1 PvE mission. So that's really cool. Especially because I think they're going to commit to story a little bit more, especially by adding the story section in back into the game. So I think this character can help serve as a way to do that. And I think that's cool. I like having actual lore tie-in. Not that I hated the Wu Young thing, but it was very much, these are just standalone characters recently. Vendetta had a small link. Freya, not really. Wu Young, not at all. Juno's from space. It's not that I think there should only be specific story characters in the game. I don't think that. But I'm glad we're getting a character that finally feels interesting. This was like how an Overwatch 1 character was released, where it was like, this is the daughter of the thing from the cinematic that you watched. And it's like, oh, okay, that's sick. I'm down. All right. So story-wise, really cool. So we'll see what they do with it. And the weapon looks cool, and the character's design looks really cool. Again, I assume everyone's seen the trailer, but in case you haven't, and you're going to complain about me not showing what the character looks like, this is Vendetta. Right? She looks pretty damn cool. The sword is cool. I love the effects on the sword. And yeah, voice acted really well as well. Doesn't feel like a stupid anime protagonist. It actually, feels like a character with some personality, and it's very well done from what we've seen. And also, there's a character that also exists in a map already. So I'm glad we're finally getting stuff that really feels embedded in Overwatch already. This character essentially existed in Overwatch, and it makes sense. So she's not going to feel out of place, and I like that. Let's move on. So the big thing is melee character, right? She is definitely a melee character. It wasn't even confirmed, but we just kind of knew this was a melee character. And the only melee character that really that was a DPS or anything was Doom. Brig was another melee character released, but Brig sort of served a different role. She didn't melee fight with people, if you know what I mean. It was more of, if you got close to her, she could then attack you type of thing. So I am excited to see how they do this, because I don't want them to mess it up. And this is my first prediction I'm going to make, because I think the dev team are slightly more competent and can see how making a full-blown melee character, especially on the DPS, is going to backfire if they make it true melee. So what I mean by that is, if similar to how DPS Doomfist was, where you had to be close to people, there was no poke phase, there was no neutral, it was just all in, engage with your abilities and kill someone. If you don't kill them, you die, and then you lose the fight. That type of volatile nature, I think they're going to learn to avoid. Hopefully, I really pray, if it is true melee, that they come up with some creative way to do it. So what do I think it actually is? I think that her primary, or a alternate fire or something, I actually would love it to be the primary, is going to be a melee attack that shoots something out of it at a sort of medium to close range distance that maybe decays in damage the further it goes, and it's really easy to hit. So if you're close, you're basically melee. I use these examples all the time, Warframe examples all the time. But if anyone plays Warframe, you'll know what I mean when I say Excalibur and his sword, right? You'll know exactly what I mean by the Excalibur exalted blade. Okay, let me show it off. I want, or at least I actually think this could be true, Vendetta will play similar to Excalibur from Warframe. Let's show it off. All right. This is the Exalted Blade. So this is what I'm initially talking about as a primary. It's hard to tell, but when you use it, it shoots off these little beams, and it still has a melee attack. So if you're close to the character, they're still going to hit you with the actual sword itself. But look, see how you're able to essentially slash in front of you. So you're not true melee. You're close in front of you. And then you have dash attacks between people. And that's sort of the thing I was thinking the Looper could sort of borrow from Excalibur. So, I mean, maybe they'll add the slash dash. I don't think they'll add a radial blind, but you never know. It could be a thing. Maybe they could copy the javelin as well. It's a slam the ground attack that knocks people up. I think that definitely also could be an ability. But my main thought initially, as soon as I saw the character, was Excalibur from Warframe. And now I know there actually are quite a few people that like Warframe that have watched me. I've seen it quite a lot. Whenever I mention Warframe, someone gets quite giddy. Wouldn't Excalibur be fun? And honestly, I think it's very doable. The idea here is not that the character just punches in front of you. It's sort of how, like, okay, my character's not loading in. Sort of how, like, Brig melee is 5 meters, right? It's not actually true melee, but more like a 10 meter, you're able to slash in front of you, and your attacks are able to go at a decent range. Nothing crazy, but similar to a Venture, right? Venture's obviously not a melee character, but you can't shoot at from this range. But you don't have to be right in someone's face. You just have to be sort of close. And I think that's the direction to go. And then, ability-wise, I would like a slam attack. A jump up and slam would be cool. Even just a slam in front, and maybe it knocks people. So you could have a dash and a slam that you combo together. So you dash, slam, and it knocks up, and then you get to fight people, right? That type of thing. Or you could save your dash to get out and engage with a different way. That type of thing. I think that'd be cool. I think this character will benefit from a simple kit. And honestly, Overwatch have been doing a lot of simple kits recently at Bottom Hazard, where the abilities are minimal, but the usage of the abilities can be quite extreme. So for instance, Freya, I do like how Freya's designed, even though Freya can be really annoying to play against. I was really strong at the start, which annoyed a few people. She has 2 abilities. A dash, which can go in any direction, and slightly lifts her up, especially if you do it slowly. It does one of those, right? And an updraft. But these abilities work really well together and create a super interesting designed character that can do a lot of things and is very flexible with a few abilities. A character like Hazard is a bit more overkill, where it's like, okay, well, you can shoot and you can right click, which is a block and a bit of damage, and then you have a dash, which you can then slash on the dash, and then you also have a wall, which you can climb the wall, and the wall does damage as well as acts as a wall and knocks back people, and then you can also wall climb and ledge grab. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff with this character, and that just makes balancing harder and design identity harder. Whereas your simple characters with nuance are a lot better, and that's where I want them to take Vendetta as they are going for a melee approach. They need to be more simplistic. Tracer is a complicated character that is really, really fundamentally simple. Blink goes in any direction, and then recoil takes you back a few seconds. Right? That's it. That is the character. Go have fun. There's nothing more to learn about the abilities. It's all in the execution of said abilities. That is kind of how I want them to approach Vendetta. And then obviously the ult is probably going to be that big beam thing we saw in the trailer. It just makes sense. Or something similar. It would be interesting to see if they ever would do an ult like this. This is a very League of Legends style ult, and I don't think there's anyone in Overwatch that has one. They're called, in League at least, steroid ults. A melee character could benefit from one. A steroid ult essentially means you could either, you basically become stronger, but you don't gain anything new. You sort of just get a bit more damage, maybe, or you get your cooldowns quicker and more health, you get tankier. I'd argue Rally is kind of like a steroid. So here I am, 250 health, bit of armor, bit of damage. You pop Rally and you get armor and you get a bigger shield, and your shield now stuns. That's kind of like a steroid. So yeah, that's probably the only example of a steroid, and she's a melee character, so it makes sense, right? I think that could be cool. Again, I like comparing to other games because I think it's one of the most fair ways of doing it. This could be similar to Riven, not in the dashes, the stuns, and stuff. Although, the slam dash, I think, from Riven could be good. So, yeah, a combination of like Excalibur, Riven. But Riven ult is a steroid that you can recast to use a big, sort of semi-ranged attack that does a lot of damage. So, let's just show this off in case you don't know. So, yeah, here you go. Riven ult. Steroid, so she gets a boost to AD, as we could see. She was an 81 before, now she's 102. It's just a slight buff to her damage. And then she can fight people, she has bonus damage. But then you'll see you have a window of opportunity to recast like that, and it sends out a big attack. And you can only do that once during the ult, and then it's done. And then it's done. I think again, the Lupa could, or Vendetta, I keep calling her both, could benefit a lot from that type of thing. A steroid. So if we think back to like how Brig works, boom. Bit of extra stuff, but then maybe the shield bash is just your one time you get a shield bash and it does a bunch of damage and does something, and then the rest is just you're back to this. That could be cool, and that would be an interesting idea to see for Vendetta. And otherwise, that's about it. I think that those are my realistic predictions. I want to throw a curveball. I want to throw a crazy idea. I think this would be crazy unique and could be broken, but hey, let's just throw it out there in case it happens so I can say I told you so. I think there is potential with a melee character to make the only uniquely cool passive that actually affects your day-to-day gameplay in Overwatch. Now, obviously, there are passives, and they do things. For instance, Brig's passive is Inspire, so yes, that's an important passive. But I'm going to talk about this. She could have this thing where as you deal more damage, or kills, probably damage, you can charge up a bar that, so you don't have it would almost work like an ult, a passive that then unlocks your character to do either those ranged attacks or to be super strong. I think there's potential to have a passive that unlocks things. Do I want it to happen? No, not really. I think it might be a bit weird, but it could be interesting. In fact, going back to League of Legends, there is a new character coming out. I forgot what his name is, but he has an ult, and I don't want this in Overwatch, but again, I'm throwing out the idea that you could do something wacky like this, where he stacks by hitting his abilities and his auto attacks a passive bar that enables him to go into his ultimate form, and then if he dies while in that form, he gets resurrected. Would that be good in Overwatch? Probably not. Probably not a cool idea, but I like the idea of an interesting passive, and I think she could have an interesting passive, but it could just be an ult. So, hey, I just wanted to throw that out there in case it happens, so I could say that I predicted it, but I don't think it will. But if it does happen, I thought it would happen. And that's how we're gonna roll with that. Anyway, that's my Vendetta predictions done. I probably yapped about this way too long and it wasn't coherent enough, but it's fresh off the dome. I'm literally thinking out loud about this character, and she seems super interesting, and I'm excited to trial her next week. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens to the kit. The kit will probably get leaked before she even goes on trial, but